where she was by the bed, pulling something by the bed for about 3 minutes of screen time, doing this, and it almost seemed like a seizure or something. And finally, she comes out for the payoff, and it was a suitcase. And David's there going, if you, and then he finally gets to it. About 3 minutes later, he stands up and hits me on the shoulder and goes, "Go for it, James." Very classic. So, yeah, that was character-wise. David basically, just get rid of this. David basically knew what he wanted and already was, that's what was so special about it. And in that, I think the thing with how everybody got along, we all just, it was better than family. I mean, we don't always get along with families. It was like a dream family. We got along to the point where we miss each other, you know what I mean? So it was like, it was a really cool setup, and I think our characters were basically almost, it was like a vibration. If you fit the vibration right, you just walk right in it. So, and that's what I think it basically, but at least he did for me. So.
Ray, I wanted to ask a little bit about when the reveal was made to you. How was that approached, and how whether you were glad not to have known.
When was I glad not to have known?
In terms of like the way that it might have shaded or nuanced your performance in the beginning, in the first season.
Yeah, see, I was fooled. I was fooled by everything and everybody. I thought that Leland was really a sweet guy who loved his daughter very much and had a wife who smoked too much, obviously. That was okay, And I had no idea, really, that I was going to end up being the killer of my own daughter, and I certainly didn't want to be that. And I had real trouble with it for weeks, mostly at home, mostly giving it to my own wife and telling her how I felt about it, and praying and hoping that it wasn't going to be me. Because number one, I'd have to leave town. I didn't want to leave all my friends. I didn't have to go to jail, or somebody would have to shoot me or something. And number two, I had a little baby girl in 1987. She was a couple 3 years old, and the whole idea of being the killer of your own daughter just did not sit right with me. And I remember Sheryl was really sweet about it, because she gave me a picture of herself, I think in the 3rd grade. No. A little school picture, and I kept it in my Leland wallet. And that was on my person the whole time I filmed that series. I gave it back to you. I should have kept it. Where was I?
So, at what point in the series did they tell you?
Just before we shot the reveal.
In that carpeted brown room, remember?
Oh yeah,
there was no
furniture
furniture
upstairs.
in David's office. Yeah,
Yeah,
brown carpet on the floor and the walls.
On the floor, we were sitting cross-legged on the floor. There was no furniture, as I recall. Like there was like a lava lamp in the corner.
Yeah, like a waterfall.
Yeah, a waterfall, kind of a lava lamp. And,
we're like,
Sheryl Lee and I and Richard Beamer.
yeah.
And then it was David and Mark.
Yeah.
And there wasn't anybody else.
Mm-mm.
And that's when I heard the famous words, and this is the way it's been recorded in my mind. I've never heard David relate the story, but it was really that kind of Ray. It's you. It was always you. And he tapped me on the knee, and I thought to myself, oh shit. No. And then he said, but it's going to be a beautiful thing. It's going to be a beautiful thing. And then he proceeded to explain to me how I'm going to die in Cooper's arms, and he's going to be reciting the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And I'm going to see my daughter at the end of a long tunnel and in the bright light, and she's going to welcome me with open arms and forgive me. And after he explained it all, I was totally on board with it, you know. He erased all of my trepidations and fears, and I shot it a few days later, the reveal scene, and then of course my last episode where all hell broke loose. The Tim Hunter directed episode where I actually killed myself by banging my head into a door. Now how weird is that?
You mentioned that Richard Beamer was in the room for that.
Yeah, because he had to be let in on the secret, because we were going to film it several different ways, and the killing of Maddie, which is the other character that Sheryl played. She played her cousin Maddie with dark hair, and that scene where she's actually killed, we shot 3 different ways. Leland killing her, Richard Beamer, Ben Horn killing her, and Bob killing her. Sheryl got killed 3 times that day. And that was like a 13, 14-hour day. I remember, I think they called in paramedics at the end of that to give her some relief. Anyway, the 3 of us killed her, so that not even the crew would know who the real killer was. And that's the way that's why Beamer was in the room.
And Bob, was there ever a variation of this where Ben Horn could have been the killer?
No, we knew who the killer was from episode 3, probably, something like that. Yeah.
You thought you were with friends. You thought it was family.
It was David and Mary Sweeney, myself, my wife Jill, Harley, Mark Frost, and his wife knew who it was, right? I mean, it was supposed to be just the boys, but obviously, yeah. And I remember sitting once at Musso's, David and I were having lunch, and I said, well, you know, the thing we could do with Leland, and David said, shut up! Top secret, right? And there was a point in this series where the National Enquirer, which was, you know, a big deal then, was getting scripts before they were aired, right? They were ahead of the story. So we actually did a watermark, you know, paper mark, watermark, what is it, you know, on the scripts. And then so that every script was numbered, but nobody knew who got what number. So we found out there was someone, I think, in the costume department who was leaking scripts to the Enquirer. And then it was like, you know, top secret shit, you know. And then for the same thing you're talking about, the day it happened, I wrote 3 other scenes that had nothing to do with anything. Like I had like a lumberjack killing Laura. You know, so that it was all misdirection, right? But the fact of the matter is there were, you know, the 4 of us, Mark, Harley, David, and myself, that knew from the start, because you kind of had to, but we couldn't tell anybody. Do you know what I mean? But that was the big secret. You know what I mean? And that was existed from, like I said, I found out around episode 3, and I was the last. I think the other guys knew before that.
Well, I was hoping that both you and Ian could talk about working with characters in the 2nd season, expanding the universe, bringing in a new set of people into this environment, and particularly, you know, Ian has a lot of drive storylines, and I'm curious to know sort of a little bit about what you guys were going for in terms of just expanding the cast, how Ian's character was originally sort of created.
Well, Ian's character was great for Harley and myself, in the sense that, and I think maybe some extent Mark, because it was so freeing. He was so wonderful, and you could be. It was a whole other take on a character in Twin Peaks that was completely different. You know, I remember Harley writing a line for you where you said somebody was preggers, right?
Right.
Pregnant.
Yeah.
And that moment for me was like, oh shit, we're going in another corridor. Oh, this is so much better in that sense.
Well, I definitely.
He was like a breath of fresh air.
Well, I definitely felt like I was on a different show. But I've often felt that way. But I definitely felt that our little, our little menage a trois, was completely. I mean, I never read a script. I get like 2 pages. So I didn't know what was going on.
I didn't know that, but I always thought everybody got
No,
scripts.
I
You
know.
guys got pages,
I know.
right?
Well, maybe I was the only one that didn't get a script, but I would only. I don't even want to think about that now. But I get like 2 or 3 pages with my stuff on it, and I didn't know what was going on. I'd never seen the show, but I would maybe have a 12 o'clock call time, and I'd go in like all kind of excited because I'd be wearing a plethora of plaid. And I'd be all kind of like, in a hot California day, bundled up as like, for the Northwest. And I'd go into the makeup room, like all cheery and whistling, and there'd be like buckets of blood everywhere, and fingernails and hair. And I'd be, what the fuck is going on? And then they'd say, oh, we can't tell you. It's like, I had no idea there was all this mayhem and this gore and this like horrible stuff and this like. Ever. I never had any idea. I think we had little like such sinister stuff, but even then it was kind of very light. It was always very light.
You weren't alone. I mean, I think everybody was curious about what was going
Well,
on.
let you tell me that now I can start to feel better about it.
I was walking through the set of, we're doing the last episode of the series, right? And I'm walking through the set, and I'm walking through, I think, the Hayward household, and there's a white horse in their living room. And David was up in his office, and I said, and David and I wrote the last episode, right? And I said, what? Dave, there's a white horse in the Hayward living room. He said, pretty cool, huh? So, we're all in the same boat.
I'm curious, Ian, did you ever come up with a backstory for how Dick Tremaine winds up in Twin Peaks?
Did I?
I mean, like, there's your character and Robin Lively's character, because they're sort of, it's hinted that they're kind of not really from there. Or, I mean, she's got the accent, you've got the accent.
Yeah, I don't really think that was ever established. I don't know. I kind of just assumed that Dick just was, it was like probably just kind of impersonating anybody he'd ever seen on a screen, I think, or he'd ever seen on television. I think he just was like so grand and pompous that I have no idea where it was from. I didn't ever think about it. I never did think about it.
Maybe Canada.
He could be from Canada, but I think that was, I didn't know then to blame Canada. Now I know. Now I know that we can do that, but I didn't even cross my mind at the time. But, yeah.
Phoebe, coming back for the film, you obviously have a lot of quite difficult scenes to approach. First of all, when directors are working with actresses in scenes like that are quite violent, what kinds of things should they be thinking about in terms of making that environment safe?
Director?
I mean, like, as an actress, having to do something that can be quite difficult, and how do you need the sort of guidance from the director? I mean, if that's too obscure. What I mean is, if you guys are, filming a difficult scene, how do you get to that emotional core in a way that's still safe for you?
Did you feel safe?
Yeah, I mean, with David, definitely.
Well, you know you're safe, you know you're working, but it's just like Sheryl was saying earlier. I don't know about you, but there were no onions to cry or remembering a dead puppy or something, because they set the scene real well. He set the scene real well. And it was pretty scary, because you let yourself be scared, right? I mean, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah,